What up, everybody? You're now tuned into the true definition of a sports fanatic. I'm your host, Brandon Lampley. We're going to talk some NFL draft today, talk about the NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Dude's career might be over. Isaiah Crowell tore his Achilles at Jets workouts this week, running back for the Jets. So we're going to just dive right into it. Well, let's kick things off with the NBA playoffs. So far, this second round of the playoffs has been spectacular. Of course, outside of Golden State beating Houston twice already, and they're up 2-0. But it's been much drama in that series, as I knew it would be. Portland, they tied it up with Denver last night. That's going to be a long series, man. That series should go 7 games. Milwaukee and Boston. I had people telling me that Milwaukee was done. Boston had done everything but wrapped it up. They gave them a bow. The fat lady was singing. Stick a fork in them. They are done. And Milwaukee came out and blew them off the floor. That's what I'm talking about. And Giannis, still, I told you that's my MVP for this season for the NBA. Giannis came through. Now, and you go back to Milwaukee for 2 games. And number 1, role players play better at home. Number 2, you get Malcolm Brogdon back from injury. And number 3, fear the deer. I think this series is a long way from over. Boston has seemed to kind of found their groove. Kyrie is slashing and dashing. But, dude, you cannot count out the Milwaukee Bucks. Last but not least, got the Philadelphia 76ers against the Toronto Raptors. The series is all tied up. It's 1-1. At this point, it can go either way to me. Kawhi Leonard has turned into the pre-injury Kawhi Leonard, the Kawhi of old that was, giving dudes problems as a 22, 23-year-old in the NBA Finals when he was MVP. But this series, especially for the 76ers, is going to come down to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has to be the guy because we know what Embiid is going to do. We know what Ben Simmons is going to do. You know what J.J. Redick and any of their role players, you pretty much know what they're going to do. What you need is for Jimmy Butler to be the superstar that he wants to be paid to be. And if Toronto ends up going to the finals to play against the Warriors, they're going to lose, just for your information. But if they go to the finals and end up playing against the Warriors, I think there's a good chance that Kawhi might stay in Toronto. I really do. All that talk of LA with the Clippers or maybe even the Lakers, that'll go out the window. You go to the finals with the Toronto Raptors. See, so if I had to call each series now and the way they would go, Golden State over the Rockets, of course. Denver over Portland. I think Denver has a little too much for Portland. Milwaukee over Boston. I like the Bucks. And I'm going to take Toronto over the 76ers. Now let's switch it up. We're going to stay in the NBA. We're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets point guard, D'Angelo Russell. So D'Angelo was cited for marijuana possession after being detained Wednesday at New York's LaGuardia Airport following a baggage check. Dude, seriously? With all the money that you have, you can wait till you got to your destination, wherever you were at, wherever you were going to get more weed. You couldn't leave that weed there or smoke it before you got on the plane. This better be some special weed. This weed better be able to multiply overnight. So if I started with 1 gram before I went to bed, when I wake up in the morning, I better have 2 grams. Then I go to bed the next night and I wake up the next morning, I better have 4 grams. That's what kind of weed it had better have been, because there's no reason for you to go to the airport with weed. Why? And then he had it in his carry-on, and it was less than 50 grams, of course, but they found it inside a hidden compartment of an Arizona iced tea can. It's those little cans you could buy off of Amazon. They got a little hidden compartment in it. It's supposed to be smell proof. So whoever that TSA was, they were very thorough in checking his stuff. And of course, he's an NBA player. I'm sure they recognized him. And so I'm pretty sure they were extra careful and went through all of his stuff. But this all comes back to immaturity. I mean, he's a kid. He's 23 years old. And the reason he's no longer a Laker is because Magic said it. He said, I need leaders. And D'Angelo was incredibly immature. Now, he's been lauded by his head coach for the Brooklyn Nets about his leadership and his improved conditioning and his professional approach to the game. But, this is just a misstep for D'Angelo. And hopefully he has, you have to have people to be able to go get these things for you. You got to have your fall guys. You got to have your do boys, because all those people in your crew who can't play basketball, they have to serve a purpose. And this is the purpose that they serve. So, I mean, according to the NBA collective bargaining agreement, a player who violates the league's marijuana policy enters the marijuana program upon first violation. And then you're fined $25,000 for your second violation. Then you suspended 5 games for your third violations. I mean, it's the same thing with the NFL. When the guy gets suspended in the NFL, he's already popped 3 times. So you have your chances, and hopefully D'Angelo heeds this warning and he wakes up. Now let's switch it up. We're going to go to the NFL. I'm going to talk about Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Now, for those of you who don't know, Tyreek Hill is an incredibly talented football player. One of the fastest people alive, probably. Like, dude is blazing speed. If you had a word to describe his speed, I would probably go with incendiary. Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah. Explosive doesn't really cover it. Yeah. Incendiary. Yeah. That's pretty good. But nevertheless, Tyreek Hill is in some trouble. Now, this is the first time Tyreek has been in trouble. In 2016, he fell to the 5th round of the draft because he choked and hit his girlfriend back in 2014 when he was in college, which caused him to be dismissed from Oklahoma State. So, I mean, it was already controversial for them to draft him. And, because he was such a great player so early, things tend to be forgotten. Like your boy Ben Roethlisberger. Nobody talks about those sexual assault charges no more. It's because he's won 2 Super Bowls. It is what it is, I guess. But they want to talk about Cam and the doggone laptop still to this day. But anyway. Or they want to talk about Jameis and that girl in Tallahassee. It is what it is. Tyreek, on the other hand, now the girlfriend who he choked and hit had a son by him. And Tyreek's son got his arm broke. Don't know how. And it's not really clear on which one of them did it or how it happened or what. But she released some audio which kind of detailed what might have happened to his son. Now, when the kid's arm was broke, supposedly Tyreek was in San Diego. And he didn't play a part in breaking his son's arm. But in the audio, she's secretly recording him. She's talking to him about how he disciplines his son. So he holds his son's arms behind put his arms behind his back, and he punches him in the chest, to discipline him. And she was saying how he's afraid of him. And he responds to her by saying, "You should be afraid of me too." And he uses a derogatory term to describe a woman. You can guess what that is. So the audio was not a good look for him. Now he's come out with this like a 4-page letter to the NFL, detailing his innocence, and basically him and his lawyer are trying to backpedal. And I'm pretty sure, even because the girl now, she's his fiance now, she's going to backpedal too, because that money that he supposedly was in the works to sign a blockbuster deal to become one of the highest paid players at his position in NFL history. Now that money, that well is going dry fast. So the attorney for him issued a detailed denial of the child abuse allegations and the recording that was released last week by his fiance. And his son is 3 years old. And of course, in those letters, Hill denies that he's ever punched his son in the chest or anywhere on his body, or otherwise touched him in the chest in a mean-spirited manner or as a form of discipline. And Hill's lawyer has denied that Hill played any role in the breaking of their son's arm. The attorney notes that the boy was examined at the hospital and the injury was considered an accident. Now, the Chiefs, so far, they've suspended Tyreek Hill, I think, from all team activities for right now until they iron out everything and get all the details. But if they have to release Tyreek or trade him or do whatever, he gets suspended, this is going to be a big blow, because you've already lost Kareem Hunt. And I've already said that the Chiefs are going to take a step back this year anyway. But losing Tyreek Hill will be like going into the season without an arm or a leg. It is going to cripple them. But the person to blame in all of this is Tyreek Hill. He has no one to blame but himself. After the first incident back in 2014, when she was pregnant with your child, you should have left her alone then and just co-parented. Not get engaged and plan on making her your wife. You should have let it go then, because obviously, for whatever reason, you can't keep your hands to yourself or stay out of trouble. The NFL has released a statement on it saying, they're still gathering information. They give the standard statement they would give just about any situation where they're gathering information, and they're not going to discipline him at this time. But you best believe it's coming. Now we're going to switch it up. We're going to stay in the NFL. We're going to talk about the NFL draft. I loved every minute of the NFL draft. I watched the first round on Thursday night in its entirety. Stayed up to like 1:30 in the morning, going over the picks and, watching I love the players' reaction. I love their families' reaction. I mean, that one phone call, life changes and life gets better. At least it should. But we're going to start with the NFC West. And we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, who held the number 1 pick. And I would say my draft grade for them, I'll give them an A. Because top to bottom, their draft was absolutely amazing. I mean, you got your quarterback at number 1. Clearly, the new regime, the new head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, they didn't like Josh Rosen. That wasn't their guy. So he went out and he got his guy, Kyler Murray, at the top of the draft. That was easy to do. You turn that card in, that's easy. And in the second round, they got first round value in the cornerback, Byron Murphy from Washington. Byron could start day 1 if he beats out Robert Alford and start opposite Patrick Peterson. But in the least, he's going to be the nickel corner from day 1. And then they got a really good receiver, Andy Isabella out of Massachusetts. Zach Allen, defensive man from Boston College. Oh, man. And they got my man Hakeem Butler, the wide receiver from Iowa State. I think Hakeem is going to be great for them. And I can't believe this guy fell to the 5th round. Alabama safety Deontay Thompson. I thought Deontay would go in the first 3 rounds easy. But he fell to the 5th. And all he had, just make the best of it, man. Eddie Jackson for the Chicago Bears, former Alabama safety, fell to the 4th round. And now Eddie's one of the best safeties in the entire league. And they finished up in round 6 with Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver from Fresno State. Lamont Gaylord, the center from Georgia. Joshua Miles, offensive tackle, and Michael Dogby, defensive end from Temple, and Caleb Wilson, the tight end from UCLA. So they addressed a lot of needs. I mean, this wasn't a good team last year, so they addressed a lot of needs in the draft. And overall, it was just a great draft from top to bottom. So an A for the Arizona Cardinals. Now let's move on to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, give the Seahawks a B. Their first round pick, L.J. Collier, out of TCU. I think it was a great fit. They needed to take a defensive end because they traded Frank Clark, their star defensive end, to the the Kansas City Chiefs. And he signed a blockbuster deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, so I understood them not wanting to pay him that money. See, they came back in round 2, got Marquise Blair, safety out of Utah. I mean, you have to replace Earl Thomas. Now, I'm not saying this guy's Earl Thomas. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him, but it's a start. Then they come in the second round. They pick again, and they got DK Metcalf, a guy who I thought would have went in the first round. Thought somebody would take a chance on him. Didn't think he was a first round wide receiver, and he ended up going in the second. So I mean, 6'3", 228 pounds. He runs a 4.3. I mean, he can be good from day one, or he can be a bust from day one. I mean, he's a boom or bust prospect. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Then round 3, took Cody Barton. I'm not going to go through the whole list because I'll be here all day, but I'll just highlight guys who caught my eye and guys who I think can contribute from day one. Oh, man, in round 6, they got Travis Homer, the running back out of Miami. I mean, he's basically going into a rotation with Chris Carson, Rashad Penny. But Mike Davis, he left, so he has a chance to fill that role as number 3. But keep your eyes on Travis Homer, the running back out of Miami for Seattle. And DeMarcus Christmas from Florida State. Man, I just like his last name, Christmas. I love Christmas. But I see him making an impact. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams. And I give the Los Angeles Rams a B. I mean, 2 players that really stuck. I mean, this was already a stacked team. So, 2 players that really stuck out was third-round tackle Bobby Evans. I watched him leading up to the draft. He should take over for Andrew Whitworth once he retires. I think Andrew's like 37. So he doesn't have, he's a little longer than 2. He won't be in football much longer. And the third-round running back, Darrell Henderson. I like Darrell Henderson. I think Darrell Henderson was he was graded as one of the top prospects at running back coming out. Now, ran for had 25 total touchdowns in his junior year and over 2,000 all-purpose yards. And so he'll be great depth behind Todd Gurley, who, I mean, it's still a mystery about what's going on with Todd's knee. So let's go to the San Francisco 49ers. And for San Francisco, I'll give him a C-. Nick Bosa, I mean, he's a star. He's going to be a star. And I think the Cardinals might regret passing on him. But if Kyler Murray ends up being who I think he's going to be, they'll be fine. Now, they did take a punter in the 4th round. I mean, I don't understand it, which, don't get me wrong, my team, my boys, Jacksonville Jaguars, we took a punter in the 3rd round, and we just happened to take him 3 picks before Russell Wilson. I know, we'll never live that down. But taking a punter that high, you could have went and got a punter off the street. I don't see it. Now, they added 2 wide receivers in Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. Overall, it's about a C-. Nick Bosa was the crown jewel of that crop. Now, let's go to the NFC South. We'll start with the Atlanta Falcons. Give the Atlanta Falcons a C+, B-. I did like their first-round guard, Chris Lindstrom. Dude's an absolute road grader. He should step in and start right away. I mean, this draft was all about protecting Matt Ryan, because Matt was running for his life last year, and I think they accomplished that. And they got a nice running back in Quadre Ellison. He'll be a nice addition. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers. Give the Carolina Panthers a B. I like their second round tackle, Greg Little. He could have won in the first round, and give him a little time, and he could develop into a heck of a player. First round pick, Brian Burns out of Florida State. Now, of course, everybody said the same thing about Brian. He has to gain weight, but come on, guys. You've seen after a year in or 2 years in, or these guys get bigger. They get on the weight programs in the NFL. They start taking care of their bodies better, because in college, I mean, you being a college kid, a lot of them don't take training very seriously. So he's going to get in the league, and after that first year, they're going to pump him up, and he's going to put weight on. Now, next up is the New Orleans Saints, and picking up center Eric McCoy in the second round was big for them, because their center Max Unger retired seemingly unexpectedly. So now Eric McCoy should be able to step in from day one and provide quality reps for them. I do like safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think he'll definitely come in and make an impact. Last but not least is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who keep my eye on the Bucs this year. They're a Florida team, and I always root for all my Florida teams. That includes the Dolphins. I think they'll turn it around this year under Bruce Arians. I think Jameis will show everybody, why he was taken #1 overall. And I've seen a interesting nugget about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. I mean, Jameis so far has been considered a bust to a lot of people. Even me personally, I still wouldn't call him a bust yet. I mean, he hasn't played up to #1 pick status, but for what it's worth, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense has finished top 10 the last 3 years. So, I mean, that's saying something. Their offenses have been great. Defense hasn't been great. And you don't play defense, you don't win games. It is what it is. But Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they get a C from me in the draft. Their first round pick, Devin White. Oh, man. This dude can absolutely fly. Speed for days. And now that the way offenses are run now, where all they want to do is spread you out and have speed all over the field, this guy could keep up. So I love their first round pick, Devin White. And they took a kicker in the 5th round. Why are you taking kickers, man? Why? For what? You could have went and got a kicker off the street, or got an undrafted kicker. Don't draft a kicker. I understand kickers are people too. Don't draft a kicker though. Yeah, and they definitely got better on defense. Defense was their Achilles heel. Now we're going to move on to the AFC South. Got the Tennessee Titans. Give the Tennessee Titans a C. They got their first round pick, Jeffrey Simmons. I like Jeffrey Simmons. Now I feel like what they did at what I think it was ESPN did at the draft, well, they didn't even talk about Jeffrey's athletic ability, his tape, what he's going to bring to the team. The first thing they talked about is a video of him striking a female, and in the video, the female who he was striking was beating up his sister. It was back in high school. His sister got in a fight. The girl was beating up his sister, and he went and he protected his sister. Now, we don't condone that type of behavior here at the True Definition of a Sports Fanatic, but I understand. I really understand, because I'm going to let you know right now, ladies, you get in a fight with my sister and you start beating her up, I'm coming to get you off of her. It is what it is. But them taking Jeffrey Simmons, it's risky because he's coming off a torn ACL. But, man, once that ACL heals and he's ready to go, man, they got a heck of a player. The second round receiver, A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown can come in and make an impact immediately. Because really, outside of Delaney Walker and Corey Davis, I really can't name you any of their receivers in Tennessee. So that should help out Marcus Mariota tremendously. And Marcus, of course, has to stay healthy. So we're going to move on to my Jacksonville Jaguars, who I give us an A. I'm a homer. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I give us an A. Before the draft, I had us going 8-8. Now after the draft, I see 10-6, man. We're going to the playoffs. You probably got the best player in the draft in Josh Allen. Easy. Pass rusher from Kentucky. Easily can be the best player in this entire draft, and he fell to you at 7. Then you follow that up and come in the second round and get tackle Jawan Taylor from Florida, who was projected to go to us at 7. So right there, your first 2 picks back to back. Both players fell to you. Then in the third round, when us got a tight end, Josh Oliver, who's going to come in and should play early because, who are tight ends? Koyak and Jeff Swain. Yeah, Josh Oliver. Josh Oliver can come in and get reps early in this offense. But overall, Jacksonville Jaguars, A all day long. Now let's flip to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Colts got better too. Picked up wide receiver Paris Campbell out of Ohio State. Dude is fast. That's the best way I can explain it to you. He's fast. He's going to contribute immediately. And then they come back in the second round and they pick up a guy who I thought should have been a first-round corner in Rocky Sin. He is going to be a great player. Good corner. I move to the Houston Texans. For the Houston Texans, I'll give them maybe a D+. Their best pick to me was the tight end, Kahale Warring. He can be special. He's raw, but his ceiling is through the roof. It's through the roof. Does that make sense? Ceiling is through the roof. His potential is through the roof. Yeah, let's reword it like that. Their first round pick, Titus Howard from Alabama State. I don't know. I don't know, man. Now, you need offensive line help because Deshaun Watson, I think, was the most sacked quarterback last year. And they needed help, but I don't think Titus can come in and help him from day one. You need immediate help now. And, of course, they went and got a corner in the second round to Lonnie Johnson from Kentucky. And dude is going to be a starter sooner than later. Now we're moving on to the AFC North. We'll start with the Baltimore Ravens. Gave the Baltimore Ravens an A. I love third-round receiver Miles Boykin. Big guy, a lot of potential. Needs some coaching, but he's going to be big play receiver for them. I love the first-round pick, Marquise Brown. I think Marquise Brown was probably the best receiver in the draft. Dude can fly. So you got all right off the bat, you got 2 wide receivers for Lamar, and this offense is going to look a little different next year. Now on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals gave them a B. One of my favorite picks of theirs was 4th-round defensive tackle Renell Wren. Hey, he's the steal, man. Get that guy in the 4th round. He shouldn't have been a nose tackle at Arizona State, but he's going to be a 3 technique in their defense, and dude's going to be good. I know I said it a lot. Dude's going to be good. I don't know why they took Ryan Finley in the 4th round at quarterback. Dude might not even really be a career backup. So I feel like that was a wasted pick. Now, offensive line, they needed to address that. They really need to address it. Jonah Williams from Alabama, Roll Tide. And then adding 2 running backs, Travion Williams and Rodney Anderson. Those were good too. You had a few backs there already, but those guys are going to upgrade the running back room for Cincinnati. Next up is the Cleveland Browns, and their draft wasn't really impressive to me. I give them maybe a D+. Their best picks to me was Sheldrick Redwine, safety who can run, and the corner Greedy Williams out of LSU. Now, Greedy fell in the draft because he's not physical. He needs to work on his tackling. But outside of those two guys, which you took a kicker in the the fifth round, which don't draft kickers. Just said don't draft kickers or punters. Why? Why do you need to draft them? But they basically traded their first round pick for Odell Beckham Jr. So if you basically look at it like that their first round pick was Odell Beckham Jr., oh, that's a win. That's an A. But overall, their draft was unimpressive. Now on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, I feel like I've talked about the Steelers a lot since I've started this podcast. I'm sure if you go through all my episodes, I mentioned the Steelers in at least 6 episodes, at least. But hey, they've been in the news. They're a topic. So hey, when something happens, gotta talk about them. Now their draft was pretty decent. Gave him a B. I like their third round corner Justin Lane. He should come in and he should push for starting time early on, because who knows how long Joe Hayden has. Joe can't never stay healthy anyway. And then them picking Devin Bush, trading up and going to get Devin Bush. If you don't know Devin Bush, Michigan linebacker, he's the one that started a bunch of crap at the Michigan State game. They were in warm-ups, and he's out there jogging, got his headphones on, warming up, getting ready for the game. He decides to go to the logo in the middle of the field at Michigan State and take his cleats and start to destroy the logo with his cleats, and basically kicking the dirt off and kicking the paint off, and it really started a little fracas before the game. Hey, it's gamesmanship. It's not necessary, but hey, it is what it is. Whatever you got to do to get yourself hyped, and it's just some grass. People see it as disrespectful or whatever, but it's just some grass. They painted over it and they played the game. Boo-hoo. Sad story. But yeah, overall, give the Pittsburgh Steelers a B. Now, I'll never question them when they draft a wide receiver, because they taking Dante Johnson. Now I'm gonna be looking at him, because when they take wide receivers, especially later on in the draft, the guys turn out to be great. So I'm definitely keep my eyes on Dante Johnson. Now we're moving on to the NFC North. We'll start with the Chicago Bears. And off top, I love their 4th round receiver, Riley Ridley, the little brother of Falcons receiver Calvin Ridley. And though he didn't run well at the combine, but he plays fast. Plays very fast. And I think he's going to contribute in that Bears offense very early. And I like them taking running back David Montgomery. He should contribute early, because Tyreek Cohen, he's a great back, but he's a slight build. You can't run Tyreek Cohen 25 times a game, and they traded away Jordan Howard to the Eagles. David Montgomery is going to come in and get some reps early. Next up is the Detroit Lions. Gave him a C. One of the picks that stuck out, I told you I love cornerbacks, and Amani Oruwariye. Thought he would go a lot higher. Definitely thought he would go a lot higher. But he went in the 5th round. And he's going to be great value for the Detroit Lions. Now, their 1st round selection, which was T.J. Hawkinson, there was a position of need, I would say. It wasn't a major need, but it was a position of need, because I think you need more than one tight end. They did sign Jesse James in the offseason from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Jesse James, he isn't that great of a pass catcher to me. He's more like an inline tight end, more of a blocker. So I think Hawkinson can come in and play opposite him, and you can line up Hawkinson all over the offense. He should contribute early in that offense with Matthew Stafford. So a C for the Detroit Lions. Now, there's the Green Bay Packers, of course. Their third-round tight end, Jay Sternberger. Aaron Rodgers is going to love his new toy. Yeah, Jay Sternberger early on. Aaron Rodgers is going to love him. So he's going to be one of my fantasy pickups. Just so you know, don't take that. Don't take that. Matter of fact, I'm going to erase this part of the podcast so you guys don't be stealing my picks, especially the guys in my fantasy football league. And they took defensive end Rashawn Gary in the first round. Very athletic. And he didn't have a whole lot of production his last year in college. But he should come in and contribute early. Definitely like their second-round center, Elgton Jenkins. Yeah, one of the top linemen in the draft, bar none. And they got him in the second round. So overall, the Green Bay Packers got a B from me. Now we're moving on to the NFC East. I'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. Gave the Dallas Cowboys a B. I like their second-round pick, Tristan Hill, defensive tackle from Central Florida. Quick dude. He will make an already deep line even deeper. But he has to get more consistent. But in Dallas, I think he's going to flourish under Scott Linehan. Also, they traded their first-round pick basically for Amari Cooper. And he was better than any receivers that's in this class. So there is that. And then third-round guard, Connor McGovern. I like that. So I think they had a decent haul. Running back Tony Pollard in the fourth round. I think I had Tony going a little higher than the fourth round, so they got good value for Tony Pollard. But overall, I give him a B. Next up is the New York Giants. New York Giants, gave him a C. I gave him a C because they took Daniel Jones at 6. Now, of course, Daniel Jones might end up being a good quarterback. But at 6th overall, but I am a proponent of, if you love the guy, take him. So obviously they loved him. Because reports were that they were going to take a defensive lineman at 6. That would have been Josh Allen if they went that route. And he wouldn't have fell to the Jaguars at 7. But you take Josh Allen at 7 and then come back and get your quarterback, whoever it may have been, at 17. But I'm like, if you don't like him at 17, why the hell would you like him at 6? I don't understand. But they like that guy and they got him. He might end up being good, but Daniel Jones, that's why I'm leaning. I would say a C+ for me for them because of that pick. Now, outside of, if I take Daniel Jones off of this, defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence at 17. Dude, I've watched this guy for a couple of years now, going against my Roll Tide. He's a beast. So Dexter Lawrence, the corner DeAndre Baker from Georgia, I've watched him going against my Roll Tide for the last couple of years. So overall, they had a great draft. And edge rusher O'Shane Zamines. He's a project player and he's going to need some time, but it was a good pick. Overall, their draft was good. It's just taking Daniel Jones at 6. My God. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles got a B+. Love their second-round running back, Miles Sanders. He can come in and go for 1,000. I'm calling it now. He can come in and go for 1,000. Now, that backfield is crowded, but he gets the majority of the toes. He can come in and go for 1,000 from day one. I also love the pick, the first-round pick, Andre Dillard out of Washington State, the offensive tackle. And he's going to be a backup, to start with, but eventually he's going to take over, most likely for Jason Peters. And also a great value pick in Sharif Miller, defensive end from Penn State. So all in all, Philadelphia had a decent draft. Now, on to the Washington Redskins, A+. Easy, A+. Them taking Dwayne Haskins and didn't have to go up and trade anything to go get him, easy. He's probably going to be the best quarterback to come out of this draft. I told you, if I was the Jaguars, I would have took Dwayne at 7. So Washington getting him at 15, A+. Also, trading back into the first round and getting Montez Sweat. And if this dude is actually healthy and there are no issues, it's a steal. It's a steal. Because Montez should have went top 10. So that's a steal. All in all, Washington Redskins, A+. Now on to the AFC East. Should be known as the Patriot Invitational because they win that division every year. But we'll start with the Buffalo Bills, and I gave them a B. But first, they got one of my favorite players in the entire draft, and Houston defensive tackle Ed Oliver. Ed slipping to 9 was a surprise for me. Well, not really a surprise, as I heard he was tumbling down the boards a little bit. And it was all because of, well, not all because of, but some of it was about, the incident he had in college with his head coach, former head coach of the Houston Cougars, Major Applewhite, where they got into it about a jacket on the sideline. Look it up. I kid you not. It was about a jacket, and something about active players were the only ones able to wear the jackets, and Ed was hurt at the time. And Major Applewhite decided to go up to him and put his hands on Ed to take the jacket off. Now, me personally, if Ed would have slapped him, I would have understood. I don't condone that type of behavior, but I understand. The Buffalo Bills, taking Ed Oliver at 9, he fits in like a glove. And he reminds me of Aaron Donald. Just fast, nasty, violent, explosive. Not incendiary, but explosive. Also, I love them getting tackle Cody Ford. I mean, first round is supposed to be a money round, and they knocked it out of the park. And then they come back in the 4th round, and you get a weapon for your young QB, Josh Allen, and tight end Dawson Knox. I like the way they're going. But that is a B for the Buffalo Bills. Next up is the Miami Dolphins, and I give the Miami Dolphins a B. Shoot, with their first round pick, that was my favorite pick of their draft. It's Christian Wilkins. I've had to watch Christian Wilkins at Clemson for the last couple of years and watch him play against my Roll Tide. I mean, I know these guys. They can play. I told you, that whole Clemson defensive line, man, all of those guys can play. They've been putting guys in the league for the last couple of years. They've been churning them out. That's what they do. And it's amazing that their rise is tied to them getting better on the offensive and defensive lines. You have to start in the trenches. And you have to go get your quarterback. Go get your quarterback, offensive lineman, and defensive lineman. Everybody, all the other pieces, you can piece around them. But you go get good in the trenches and go get you some quarterbacks, you're going to turn it around very quickly. But back to the Miami Dolphins, taking Christian Wilkins, that's A+ all day long. Because Christian could have went higher. Now, if you don't remember Christian, after they won the championship in 2016, Christian was the one dancing during the celebration. He did a split. Go look at it. Now, one of the other things they did, they traded their second round and 5th round pick to the Arizona Cardinals for Josh Rosen, and that was big. I think they got their guy because Josh Rosen was the best quarterback in the draft last year. And so now you get that guy by giving up draft picks this year. So their draft is a B, easily. Next up, of course, the reigning champs, New England Patriots. They got my guy. I love big corners. Jawan Williams out of Vanderbilt. He's going to fit into that Bill Belichick defense like a glove. And he should play early. Now, I love N'Keal Harry. So I got a chance to really watch a few games for not Oklahoma State, Arizona State. And N'Keal Harry played wide receiver for them. And I watched them closely because they hired Herm Edwards, and I love Herm Edwards. and they were a really well coached team. And Nikhil kind of reminds me of Anquan Bolden. Like, dude can play. Now, I heard a lot of people talking where they didn't like the pick because they felt like they needed to get faster at wide receiver. Nikhil isn't a fast guy, but when the ball is in his percent, when it's in his area code, he's coming down with it. Then they go in the third round and they get a classic New England guy in Chase Winovich, defensive end from the Patriots. I mean, dude might as well get a Patriot tattoo on his bicep because he's New England through and through. And I gave them an A for their draft. And I had somebody ask me, like, you're at the bottom of the draft every year, but you keep stacking up talent. I was like, because they draft guys that fit their system. They've had the same system for the last 18, 19 years. So when you were able to keep the same system, you were able to mold guys, bring guys in and mold your system around those players, bring guys in that can fit it. I mean, other teams, the turnover is so rampant now, especially in the professional ranks, that you have a system for a couple of years, and then, you're on to the next system. So that's why New England succeeds, because consistency. Last but not least, you have the New York Jets. And I gave the New York Jets a B+. I think they probably got the best defensive player in the draft, and that is might be the best defensive player in the draft. I still think it might end up being Josh Allen, who the Jaguars picked, but I love Quinnen Williams. And it's not because he's a fellow Roll Tide. It's not. Okay, maybe it is because I got to see him pretty much every game that he played in. But Quinnen is a beast. This dude is going to be dominant for a long time. And so now that defensive line for the Jets is scary. You signed C.J. Mosley at linebacker. You got Jamal Adams at safety. Then you signed Le'Veon Bell in the offseason. Oh, man. Now, I ain't saying they're going to unseat the Patriots, but the Jets are going to be much better than last year. I like their second-round pass rusher they got in Ja'Kai Polite. In the third-round tackle, Chuma Edoga. So this draft is going to lay the foundation, especially for when Tom Brady calls it quits and it's time for them to take their seat. Now moving on to the last division, the AFC West. Going to start with the Denver Broncos. Gave the Denver Broncos a B+. And they got the third best quarterback in this draft in the second round, in Drew Lock. That's a bargain. They didn't have to give up anything, basically mortgage the franchise to go get him. He fell to him, and he's going to pay off. And I think John Elway's search for a quarterback may be over. And, of course, I like their first-round tight end, Noah Fant. I mean, I would love to have had Noah Fant here in Jacksonville. 7 would have been too high for him. But at 10, I would say 7 was a little high. It wouldn't have been too high. I wouldn't have had no problem with him coming to Jacksonville at 7 overall. But getting Noah Fant and Drew Lock right there, that's a B+ to me. And picking up tackle Dalton Risner in the second round. Already, those are your building blocks for the future right there. Kansas City Chiefs. I want to give them a D+, or C-. Love their second round safety, Juan Thornhill. Rangy player. Should erase plays on the back end. And he's built for today's game. And they got a receiver in the second round, Mecole Hardman. Dude is fast. So he's going to have to contribute early because Tyreek Hill might be out of here, ladies and gentlemen. And they didn't have a first-round pick because they traded away for Frank Clark. So that's a win for them right there because I think Frank Clark is a great pass rusher. Their third-round pick, Kalen Saunders. He's going to be one of the steals of the draft. Easy. Next up's Los Angeles Chargers. Gave the Chargers a B+. They took Jerry Tillery with the first-round pick, and I talked about him on my last podcast. He can become consistent. You're looking at a dominant player in the NFL. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I like the third-round pick, Trey Pipkins. I heard some say might seem like a reach, but I like him. And taking safety Nazir Adderley and Tillery in their first 2 picks, that sold their draft for me right there. And I like the 7th-round defensive tackle Cortez Broughton. Did a little research on him. I think he would have been a good player for the Jaguars, but now he's in Los Angeles. And last but not least, the Oakland Raiders. Mike Mayock's first draft. I like his first draft. I like running back Josh Jacobs. Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide. Getting him at 24. I didn't think I knew at least one running back would go in the first round. I thought it would be Josh, and he went around right where I thought he probably would go. But bar none, he's one of the best players in the draft, period. Now, them taking Cleveland Farrell at 4th overall surprised me. Cleveland is a good player, but I didn't think he was 4th overall good. But, we'll see. That's why we play the game. Now, them taking Jonathan Abrams in the first round. Love that pick. Love the Jonathan Abrams pick. And the 4th-round corner, Isaiah Johnson. And I think Mike Mayock knocked his first draft out of the park. Oakland Raiders, I say B+. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the podcast. I got to wrap it up. It is getting late. As a matter of fact, I got to put out the pre-draft episode too. I had been holding on to it because I thought I was going to have picked a hosting site by now so I can move over to other platforms. But I'm definitely get that episode out to you. So it should be episodes 9 and 10, pretty much going to drop together so you can listen to them back to back. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, and share it. I'm going to be moving this definitely to iTunes. I was looking at SoundCloud, Spotify, and Google Play Podcasts. So you'll be able to find this any and everywhere. Should give me a bigger audience, and we'll see where it goes from there. But until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Peace.